Hello, I'm Zachary, and I'm an artist and author, and today I'm actually going to talk about author stuff. Because recently, I wrote a short story for my email newsletter, which you can get for free just by signing up to the newsletter, and I just wanted to talk about my process for it. So the story is called The Rogue and the Witch. Rubel was kicked out of the Rogues Guild after accidentally unleashing an evil spirit. It's alright though, he has a plan. Catch the spirit, save the day, get back into the guild. His plan involves enlisting the help of Fennel, a freelance plant witch who happens to be very cute when he blushes. So it's a short romantasy story featuring a brief adventure, a happy ending, and comes equipped with a spicy epilogue. So please, adult readers only. And this video will touch on major spoilers. The story is only about 6,700 words, so it's really short. I would definitely read that before continuing with the video. You can get the story by signing up for my newsletter. It'll be linked in the description on my website. The newsletter itself will be occasional email updates about new book releases, cover reveals, blog posts, things like that. And then the footage going on in the background of this video, for the most part, will be a time-lapse of me drawing the cover art for the story. So the objective for writing the story, or rather the reason why I wrote the story, is that I wanted to write a submission to Fantasy Magazine. However, I missed the deadline. Woe is me. I tried my best to get it out in time, but fell short by a couple of days. And since it was for a magazine, the word limit was 5,000 words. So I tried to keep it about 5,000 words to hit the deadline, or to hit the word count requirement. And for the most part, I actually did it. I think I only went over a little bit, but by that point I already knew that I wasn't going to make the deadline. So I decided, hey, let's tack on a spicy ending and then just use it for my newsletter. So now you get to read it for free, and I'm not going to be spending it anywhere. So the process that I used to think of an idea, I knew I wanted to write a romantasy story because that's basically what I write. I write romance fantasy, and I write queer romantasy, but I didn't know what to actually write because, you know, blank slate. I could write whatever I wanted, really. So I decided to use the story engine deck, and I mentioned it in my previous video, which I'll also link because why not. But basically what the story engine deck is a collection of decks that have prompts written on the cards, and you would draw the different types of cards and put them in order that makes sense to you. And so this is what the card draw looks like for the Rogue and the Witch. This was my first time using them for a story, but it's not the first time that I've used a deck. I've used them before for my Ironsworn campaign, but this time I was using it for fiction. I was quite excited to use it for that. And then I'll switch over to a graphic version because my picture at the time was not intended for video, so it's a little rough. I drew a card and then arranged them as you saw before, and this is what I came up with. I would keep drawing cards if I got cards that didn't make sense or didn't really pique my interest. And like, there's no real rules. You can enforce rules if you want when you're drawing cards, but I don't, and I kind of tend to put them wherever I feel like. So what I got was a destructive gambler was forbidden from returning to a base, and now they are finding out it was based on a lie. The gambler wants to imprison a dangerous elvish spirit in a thorny ambush or trap. I wasn't quite sure at that time which one to use. But they must swear loyalty to someone they abhor, and that someone is a beautiful witch who was born under the constellation or omen of a vision, which I kind of interpreted as ill omen. And now their future romantic partner is about to find out, which would be the main character. And then this witch has also always carried with them a pair of gloves. So at the time of drawing the cards, I kind of started getting an idea of what I would write. But this still needed to work because, for one thing, I had to fit it within 5,000 words at the time. And when I was working on this idea, I had just recently watched a video called Anyone Can Build a Great Character Arc by The Second Story. Editor Zachary here. The video is actually called Subplots Can't Hurt You, Rules, Principles, and Structure. And I'll also include a link to that video. But they talked about a kind of like a framework of thinking, and I'll say framework kind of loosely. But it was more or less the idea of going from scene to scene with the use of the word therefore. And I thought it was a really interesting way of tackling plots and scenes and stuff like that, because I would follow the traditional action line of a mountain. And so I was like, well, I'll give this a shot and see how that works for me. And I feel like it worked pretty well for me. And this is kind of where the spoilers start, so if you need to skip ahead or pause the video to read the story, you can go ahead. But the rough outline turned into this. The gambler is breaking into the witch's house. They describe the goal, persuades the witch to help. They plan, which involves romantic tension. They sneak into the guild. The gambler is busted during the trap setup. The gambler risks death to give the hidden witch opportunity, and the spirit's trapped. Gambler is wounded, but otherwise okay. Romantic climax. Happy ending. Gambler retired, living with the witch. So applying that use of the word therefore, it would go sort of like this, where the gambler, banished from the guild, is breaking into the witch's house to escape notice by fellow guild members. The witch wakes and ensnares him, and the gambler explains his purpose for being there. He successfully persuades the witch to aid him. Therefore, the next day, they begin planning the trap, using the gambler's observations of the spirit and the witch's magic. And then it would just kind of continue down the outline, using the word therefore to link each scene. And the result was my short story that I feel kind of carried through the plot very well. If you read it, let me know. You can leave it in the comments, you can shoot me an email, whichever way works for me. Moving on. When it came to comparing the actual plot versus the original prompt using the cards, the constraints of 5,000 words did have me simplifying or removing certain ideas. For example, the gambler, Rubel, was initially supposed to dislike the witch, but I wound up dropping that while I was working on the outline. Same with the vision or ill omen. It gets mentioned in the story, but I wasn't able to fully explore what that all entailed. This kind of manifested into the witch having been born under a cursed star. And so he was born with brands on the back of his hands. But I didn't really go into detail about what all that entails. It's sort of well known that such marks mean that he was born under a cursed star, and it's got negative perceptions around it from other people. But because of the word count restraint, I didn't really get to go into that. I could do a follow-up sometime and expand into that, see where the two wind up after the end of this first story. If y'all read it and like it, let me know if you want to see a follow-up story. It was a lot of fun. I want to use the story deck more, and I would love to also try it out on a full-length novel with a longer plot, a larger cast, more little like subplot kind of points, arcs, things like that. I think it could be a lot of fun. And also I have 3 giant boxes of the decks sitting next to me. And I'd like to get to use them instead of them just sitting there. Yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you've read my story, like, subscribe, stay tuned for more. I am going to be doing videos in the near future going over the cover for the book that I'm going to be publishing pretty soon. Look for it near the end of April or the start of May. We'll see. There's a lot going on now in April. Like, subscribe, give me a comment, all that jazz. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Zachary, and my website is zachary.art. Thank you. Bye bye.